What's going on YouTube? OCD for EDC here, and what I got for your face balls today is the Spyderco Siren. We're going to start this off by checking out the paperwork here, and it just goes on to tell you about Lance Clinton, who is the designer of this knife, and tells you how corrosion resistant it is with the LC200N blade steel. So if you want to pause and read this, feel free to do so. All right. Now, let's get into the knife. As you can see here, I have already disassembled this knife. And the reason that I am starting out with it disassembled is because the tolerances on this thing, I came to find out, were extremely tight. So it took a little bit of doing to get the scales apart. So we're going to do this a little bit backwards, and I'm going to reassemble the knife on camera here. So anyway, as you can see here, this is a linerless knife, and all the holes and all of the hardware is D-shaped. And so you've got this black G10 over a layer of blue G10 on both sides. Backspacer is just black G10, and then you've got the spring in there for the back lock bar. You've got a black wire deep carry pocket clip, and all the hardware is black, and it is riding on phosphor bronze washers. Get the blade out here. There we go. This blade, like I said, is LC200N blade steel. And, you know, for those that don't know, I guess, I imagine most do, but LC200N is a very high nitrogen steel, and therefore it is extremely corrosion resistant. You can see Lance Clinton's designer or maker's mark there, and he happens to be a professional kayak fisherman, lives in, I believe it's Costa Rica. I think he's originally from Louisiana, something like that. But anyway, he, obviously the man does a lot of fishing, saltwater fishing, and so you're wanting a knife that it's resists corrosion. So this does that well. You have very few metallic parts in here, and the ones that you do have are all very corrosion resistant. You can see here, like I said, it's riding on phosphor bronze washers, and look, everything's D-shaped. Like I said, the backlock bar sits on this pivot here, which is, let me get some of these parts out of the way. You do have it's a shouldered pivot, and it actually goes up into the scales quite a ways. You can see the little pin sticking through the black portion of the G10, but that was one of the reasons why this was very difficult to get apart. It's just super, super tight in that hole. But one of the cool things here, and I'm not going to take it out of the other side, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it. There's a little groove cut into that pivot, which I really like. They also have the same groove on the actual blade pivot as well. And this is a really great deal because it'll hold, any extra lubrication, or if any little chunks of dirt or anything get inside that pivot. I mean, the tolerances on this thing are crazy tight. But if something were to get in there, that gives it a little place for something to escape into, if you will. So if you do have a bit of a gritty action, you might be able to work it a couple of times, and then, any little piece of debris will find its way to that little groove and just live there until the next time you take the knife apart and clean it up. I actually have to grab one thing here. I forgot to grab a couple of tools that I need to reassemble this thing. So we're going to get into reassembling this knife, but I thought you'd be interested to see it taken down. So let's go ahead. And this is similar in construction to like the Manix or the PM2, where the washers sit on the outside of the pivot barrel. And I like that building technique. It just works extremely well, and yeah, it makes for a nice easy way to put the knife together. So we are going to put a little bit of lubrication on here. Not a ton, just a little bit. Put a little bit on the pivot. All right. I'm going to drop that on, and then we're going to do just a little more lubricating there. And then we'll put the other washer on. All right. So, let me pull this blade back. I'm actually going to throw a little bit of lubrication on this as well since it's apart. But I was going to show you how the action on this knife operates. Man, everything on this knife just fits so tight, and you know, it's a good thing because this is a really solid feeling knife when it's all assembled, but getting it apart is just a little bit of a trick. You really have to be patient with it, which is why I did it off camera. So let me get this placed back down on there. There we go. All right, so you can see here the mechanics on this knife. When there is spring tension against this back lock bar, that becomes your blade stop right here. And when you open the knife up, you can see it rides the entire tang of the blade, and then it'll eventually drop into that location right there. So there is no blade stop on this knife, or you know, separate blade stop. It's all integrated into the back lock bar, and which is fine. Action on this is about what you would expect for a backlock Spyderco. You can see there the way that the knife operates. Pretty straightforward. We'll go ahead and get some of this hardware put back in. Like I said, everything on here is D-shaped, which is really nice. And you've got screws. All the hardware on this knife is T8, and then all of these, the female side of the hardware just has these kind of rivet button heads on the opposite side. So there is no, that's not double-sided. They're not, you know, barrel spacers. So that actually works pretty well for the construction. And like I said, man, all these holes are just so tight. All these parts, they just fit in the holes so tight. You really have to push them in there, and you've got the same scenario going on for the pocket clip here. And I think I already mentioned that all of the hardware is T8, and all of these pieces here that are the female portion of the hardware are all the same parts. So yeah, they're the same dimensions. But I'll tell you, it's getting these things in those holes is proving to be a trick, let me tell you, because it is just really, really tight. Yeah, man, that one doesn't even want to go in there. So I think that's actually, it was the other direction. Actually, I'm going to do this. It's going to make this a little easier, I feel like. So I need to get this lined up there. And then I need to preload that spring. Like so. Okay. All right, now we'll go ahead and put this top half on. Yeah. Man, everything about this knife is just really, really tight. Get our driver here. So this is basically just a bit smaller version of Lance Clinton's first knife, which was the Spyderco Waterway. It was a fixed blade in LC200N. Really cool knife, and I do not have that one any longer to show you because I actually gave that one to my father for his birthday. My dad does quite a bit of fishing, saltwater fishing, so it seemed like the perfect knife to give to him, and he's been enjoying it. He's had it for, well, right at about a year, I guess. So pretty cool. But this knife is very, very similar in its design and style to the Waterway. Obviously, this being a folder and the Waterway being a fixed blade, but the blade shape is very, very similar. So you can see there what we've got left for hardware is just the pocket clip. I've got that way too tight. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and throw the pocket clip on here. But the knife itself, you know, I really enjoyed the Waterway. I thought it was a really cool fixed blade that Spyderco came out with, and the Siren is no different. It's a cool knife, definitely. All right. Get something to push down on that with. There we go. Just didn't want to scratch the hardware there. Like I said, all this stuff fits so tight in this knife. You really, not the easiest thing to take down, that's for sure. Okay. Here we go. All right. So you can see their blade is centered. Action is what you would expect for a Spyderco. And let's get a weight on this thing. That's one thing I haven't done. So you're looking at almost 98 grams at just under 3.5 ounces. And now that I've got it back together, we can do some size comparisons. Here it is with the Manix 2. And here it is with the Para 3. Actually, that's not the lightweight, just the standard Para 3. This is actually the blue and orange Cutlery Shop exclusive. And then I've got a Hogue Deca sitting here. So you can see it's a fairly decent sized knife. I've got one more sitting here as well, another Spyderco. Here it is up against the Smock. So I think that does it for size comparisons. Oh, by the way, if anyone's interested, these two knives are for sale. You can hit me up on Instagram or in the comments here on YouTube, but both are brand new other than being on film. This is a Collector Club model. If I can show it off there. Right there is the number 16. So overall dimensions here, you're looking at an overall length of 8.725 inches. You got a handle length of 5 1/8 or 5.125 and a blade length of 3.6 inches. You got a handle thickness of 450 thousandths, blade stock thickness of right at 1/8 of an inch or 125 thousandths. Behind the edge is pretty consistent, 22 thousandths all the way across. And balance point on this knife is a little bit further back, maybe, but you know, right in that area right there. So nice knife, really comfortable. The ergos on this thing are really, really well done. You got this little bit of a swell towards the back, and the texture and grip on this thing are, I mean, it's almost like Velcro to your hand. This thing is definitely not going anywhere, but very solid feeling. You know, for a linerless knife, it just, I don't know what they, you know, it just feels very, very solid. Relatively lightweight. I think it comes off, just the appearance of it, you think it's going to be heavier than what it actually is. So that's actually a good thing. But yeah, I can see this being just a really, really great knife, especially if you're, for fishing and that sort of thing. Like I said, the texture that's on this G10 is aggressive. I know it's kind of hard to show that off, but really, really aggressive texturing going on. And must have had some oil on my fingers, but anyway, yeah, just comfortable, but it's not going anywhere. I mean, that thing is stuck for sure. So pretty interesting the way they did the texture. I like the deep carry clip. You do also have a lanyard hole back here. Not, I personally don't use lanyards, but you can see there that the deep carry clip isn't, well, I guess it's kind of hard to see, but there you go. It's not mounted to where this is total deep carry. You're going to have, roughly about that sticking out of your pocket. So not a huge thing, but, love the LC200N. It's got a really, really nice satin finish on the blade steel. Let me show you. It's a real fine satin finish on there, and just looks really, really nice. Compared to this Rex45 on my Manix, that's just a coarser belt satin than what's on this LC200N. So really nice looking. This one here is made in Golden, Colorado, and a really cool knife. So I think this is one that a lot of people were excited for, interested in taking a look at, and it's a cool design. I like the handle shape on it. It's a really safe handle. You don't really have any risks at all of slipping up onto the cutting edge. Really, the only thing that I would do differently on this is put a sharpening choil in. But that's really just a Spyderco thing. So, to each their own there. But otherwise, yeah, it's a really, really nice knife, lightweight for its size and for what it is. Yeah, I think it's a good one. So I haven't really had much of a chance to use this, so this is really just kind of a first look and impressions kind of a deal. But it's well constructed. The G10's really nice quality. And yeah, all the materials in there is about what I expected. I like the way it's constructed, and yeah, it's a good knife. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that Spyderco Siren. Check it out. And like I said, this one here is actually for sale if you're interested, along with this Cutlery Shop exclusive orange and blue Rex45 pair of 3. So if you're interested in either one of those, hit me up on Instagram, in the messages here on YouTube, whatever. My email's in the description below. So thanks a lot, guys. Hope everyone's staying healthy and safe, and we will talk to you next time.